Okay, so I'm going to help answer the question, how much home can I afford if I use this NACA program? All right. Um, I created this spreadsheet this morning to answer that question, to help you kind of answer that question for yourself, to play around with some different assumptions based on your situation, uh, to see, based on a certain amount of monthly payment you can afford, how much house you can actually afford. As a bonus in here, you'll also see a section to play around with if you went the conventional mortgage route with like a 20% down and a 30-year mortgage. You can also play around with if you were going through the FHA program with 3.5% down. And then you can just see also how all three of these routes compare to each other. So where this sparked from, yesterday I had a family member call me and said, "Hey Ty, I am uh I am thinking about buying a home through this NACA program that helps first-time home buyers." And he said, basically, it's a sweet deal because I can tell them, how much I want to pay a month, and they will get me a conventional loan, 30-year fixed rate, no down payment, no PMI, no closing costs. So like, sweet. So then it sounds good. Uh, what type of have you calculated kind of how much house you can afford? Based on that. Have you used any mortgage calculators? And he was basically like, well, no, I don't really need to use a mortgage calculator because, I basically tell them how much I can afford, and then they're gonna basically come back to, then they're gonna basically help me get the house I want. And I'm like, all right, so have you started looking at houses online? He was like, yeah. I'm like, what price range you looking at? And I think he was saying, I can't remember, but he was saying something like between 200, 250,000. And so here's why I paused, and here's was my advice to him, and here's what motivated me to create this video, and what just motivates me in general when it comes to talking about personal finance. Everyone should be able to do the math for any financial decision you're going to have to make. It's very accessible. You don't have to have a math degree. You don't have to be, that person say I was so good at math, or you love doing numbers and calculations. Okay, with these spreadsheets now, especially when you have templates like this that I just created, you can just plug and play. But at least I just want you to understand how the numbers relate to each other, and you can do a lot, and you can do a lot of the work on your own, and that actually equips you to be better informed when you're talking to these professionals, people that can help you, whether it be a NACA person or a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, or even if you're talking to, your spouse or someone else, and you're trying to, make these type of decisions. I want you to be able to do the math yourself, and going into it, yeah, based on the numbers, based on how all these numbers relate, how you're going to help me with the math. Here's what I'm calculating I could afford. And then you can have that as a reference point when they come back to you, and you can, you see if you're in the same ballpark, if something sounds fishy. Like if your math gets you to a totally different place from their math, if they're telling you could afford something a lot more than what your math showing, then that's a red flag. Or even the reverse, if you're saying you can afford something that's higher, much higher than what they come back with, then you can say, all right, show me, which assumptions you're making that's different from what I'm making. You can kind of pinpoint it. So, okay, so that's enough for the intro. I'm gonna get into this specific spreadsheet. Uh, I named it the NACA calculator, but this is how it works. So, real quick on the colors. The yellow cells are inputs. So these are places where you need to kind of put in information. The numbers that are in white cells are calculations. So I don't advise you to change those unless you see an error. And if you do see an error, let me know. Leave a comment or send me a message. And then the blue cells are I would call them key results. So they are also calculations, but these are like the main numbers you're looking for. Okay. So let's just walk through this real quick. So the first row is I call this the traditional, call it 20% down scenario. So let's say your max payment is 15. You can afford is 1,500 a month. You can play with this. You could put 1,800, and all the numbers will change. You put 1,000, all the numbers will change. But let's say it's 1,500. You want that 1,500 to include the taxes, right? Because you want this to be like your monthly payment that covers mortgage, taxes, and PMI or private mortgage insurance if applicable. Now, for the taxes part, you kind of have to estimate. I do have a link here, which has a link to the average taxes by state and even county level. Um, this is not going to be exact, but I looked this up for Prince George's County, Maryland, um, and there it said it was 1.33%. So I just in here. So what I would suggest you do is put in a average tax rate, based on your area, and then multiply it by, since we haven't calculated the purchase price yet, you're gonna have to just make an estimate. So if if you think you're looking at houses in, like, say, the $250,000 range, just go in there in the formula and put 250,000, um, and that's gonna give you your estimate for your monthly taxes. Okay. The PMI is also, I have a link to the PMI calculator. Also gives you like a range of PMI based on, I believe, your state. That range can be anywhere from 0.5% to like 2.5%. So, um, so, so I would suggest you use maybe 1% or 1.5% for this first scenario. Since you are doing since this is a 20% down, no PMI is required, so that's zero. So then in this scenario, the mortgage payment you can afford will be roughly $1,223, because that's, you know, 1,223 for the mortgage and then 277 for the taxes. That gets you to your 1,500 max. For the interest rate, I have a link in here for average interest rates, again based on your state. When I put it in just now for Maryland, it was like 3.6%. Again, I think you all know interest rates will depend on your credit score. There could be, so you might want to boost this up a little bit if you know your score is a little lower. But let's go. This can all be easily changed, and it'll change your number. So I would suggest you play around with it. And then a number of years, 30 years is kind of your conventional. That's what the vast majority of loans are. Uh, Personally, I prefer 15 years. So you can also type in 15 and kind of see what that changes. But all right, so let's put 30. So in this scenario, $1,500 maximum payment, 277 a month in taxes, 3.6 interest rate on the 30-year loan. Your maximum you can borrow is like $268,000. Now, if you need the 20% down payment, like we're assuming for this scenario, then your purchase price will actually be higher than that. That'd be 336,000. This is a calculation. Um, and that down payment in cash is 67,000. So that's 20% of the 336. For closing costs, I have a link again for kind of, you can see what the average closing costs estimates are in your area. Um, I would suggest erring to the high side. So I think when I looked at this link for Maryland, it was like $6,000 to $7,000 for houses that were in that $200,000 to $300,000 range. I would err to the higher side, because another thing when it comes to making big financial decisions, you don't want to make your budget so limited that you have zero room, no cushion. You don't want it to go down to the penny. And if any of your estimates was off by a little bit, then that kind of bust your whole plan or put you in a bind. So I would say, if it's a $67,000 range, make sure you got 7,000 comfortably accounted for. Okay. So in this case, for your cash needed, you just add the down payment plus the closing costs. So that's how much you would need from the beginning. So that's 74,000 in this case. Okay, so as a recap in this scenario, 1,500 down. I mean, we have 1,500 monthly payment. That allows you to get a house for $336,000, and you're gonna need 75,000 or so to close. All right. So then let's go to the FHA 3.5% down. See how that compares. Oh, one thing I want to go back to the taxes bit. So you saw how in the beginning we assumed 250,000 in our taxes calculation, but in the end the purchase price was 336. Even though we're kind of estimating here, uh, to the point I just made, I want to err to the side of caution. I would hate for you to be in a situation where you were budgeting for taxes. Your budget for taxes was too low for the house that you bought. So I would just simply go back here and adjust this number, and we want to make sure that it's higher than the purchase price, when it's all said and done. So let's see if I move this up to 335, for example. Yeah, and then you see that my taxes went up to 370. That drops the mortgage I can afford, which drops the loan I can afford, which brings down the purchase price to 310. Okay, so this is actually a little bit more comfortable with this scenario because maybe the taxes will come in a little bit less than 370. Great, that's a little bit more money, but that's a better situation to be in. If you want to really refine this, you could maybe try to get these 335 closer to the 310 without going under. So maybe call it 325. That got closer, 325, 313, call it 320. Okay, so I would probably stop there. So in this, it's very clear. We're assuming 355 a month in taxes. I know that feels high. Ouch. Uh, but you can buy a house for around 315,000, and you need 70,000 cash at the table. All right, so let's go to the 3.5% scenario. Same 1,500 month maximum payment. This is not going to change uh, depending on what scenario you go with. Your budget, your monthly budget is your monthly budget. For the taxes, uh, again, we can start with the 250,000 as just to see where we are, where we get, and then we come back and refine it. PMI. So in this case, you're definitely going to need PMI insurance since you're only putting 3.5% down. Um, so uh, again, it's an estimate based on the value of the house. So let's just make sure we're using the same assumptions here. So if I change anything here, I'm gonna change it here. Okay, so it's 250. 1% of the 250, that's 208 a month. So you see how this starts to change how much your mortgage payment is, because now I need to account for another $200 or so for that. So that brings down the mortgage in this scenario to about $1,000. If I assume the 3.6 in the 30 years, I could borrow 223, and that 3.5% down would results in means a purchase price of 231. I need 8,000 down. Closing costs should be the same if you do conventional or FHA, so we should keep those assumptions pretty much the same. It might be a little bit different based on the value of the house, but let's call it 7,000. So I need 15,000 cash. All right, so you already see if you're primarily just concerned about uh, your monthly payment and how much cash you need, you can see why this FHA, what this saves you versus conventional, which is it's all about the cash you need, the cash down, but the purchase price the house is much more affordable. Or another way of saying it, it's much you can afford. You can't afford anywhere near as much house in this scenario, based on this same maximum monthly payment. Okay, hope everyone's following along. I'm not going too fast. I didn't want this to be like a 1 hour video, but leave a comment if I went over anything too fast. Let me know what you want me to clarify, uh, and I'll be happy to respond. Okay, so let's get to the NACA because that's the whole name of this video. So I want to make sure I spend adequate time here before I lose you. Okay, so NACA, 0% down, 1,500 monthly payment. Um, Let me go back real quick on the taxes and check. So my purchase price is 230. I was assuming 250 in these guys. Okay, that's okay. I'm comfortable with that. So let's go here. Let me start with my 250. That's my base assumption at 277. Okay, so here's where we start to see the benefit. Number one, no PMI. So that 200 goes away. Bam, we at zero. So that allows my mortgage payment to be 1223. So we're already looking better in terms of what as far as your purchase price, what you can afford, goes up. Then we go to interest rate. So what I read about NACA is that they give you actually a better interest rate than like a conventional mortgage, and also incredibly, they give uh, everyone the same interest rate, regardless of your credit score. So I guess I'm not sure exactly how you qualify for NACA, but if you do qualify, everyone gets a good interest rate better than the average. I'm not sure how much better. If it was a quarter point better, then that would be like 0.25 percent less. For this, I just plugged in 3.4. You could easily put 3.35 if you wanted to get to that quarter. So this help again. You can start to see how this helps you with the conversations with NACA, because you can ask them directly, how much better interest rate should I be able to get versus average, and they can tell you if it's a quarter point better, a half a point, or whatever, or if it's just 10 basis points. They may even be able to tell you the exact interest rate based on where you are in the time, and the current interest rates at the time. Um, so this is a question for them. For this math, I put 3.4. 30 years is your conventional, um, for the conventional mortgage time period. So the maximum loan amount 275. 0% down, so that means the purchase price and loan amount will be the same. So this allows you to buy a $275,000 house for the same monthly out of pocket as if you did a FHA loan. Uh, so that's like a $40,000, in this case, a $40,000 more house you can buy. So you really start to see the benefit of going through NACA if you can. And then there's no down payment. And here's the other big thing. From what I read, no closing costs. So cash needed is effectively zero as far as I can tell. Again, this will be a question for your NACA representative who you're working with, to have them confirm. So are you telling me I need no cash at closing? Or is it just, or is it just kind of like prepaid taxes? Or what exactly would you need? Is it like $1,000 or 500? But if it's true that it's effectively zero, um, then this is like crazy beneficial type of deal as far as helping people who don't have the cash saved up to get a house. Because now you can get a $275,000 house for the and pay basically maybe even less than what you pay in rent. Um, and you got a 30-year conventional fixed rate loan. So it's a great deal. I mean, you don't have no equity in your house from start, but if you're gonna be there for a while, you can build up equity. Um, I guess not a big deal. So again, one last check. The what value was assumed in the taxes calculation versus the purchase price. In this case, purchase price is higher than my 250 assumption, so I'm gonna go back and change that. I call that 275. Okay, so then I bring my purchase price down to 270. Fine, that's perfectly fine. So this is your end result for that 1,500. You could buy a $270,000 house, no cash needed to close. Beautiful. And if you say, okay, 270, actually, that's more than what I need. What if I drop this to 1250? Okay, 1250, I can get a $213,000 house. All right, let me look, see if I can find something in that range. So this is how the math, this is how you don't, this helps you not to have to rely on a real estate agent, rely on NACA, rely on a mortgage broker to tell you how much house you should buy. You can go and you can calculate for yourself based on how much you can afford, uh, and how much and how all these numbers relate to each other in terms of what your interest rate is going to be, how many years uh, your mortgage is going to be, what's your closing costs, what the taxes are, so like right here, I will probably drop this from 275 or 213. That's a big difference, so I could probably drop that to call it 225. Bam, right on the dot. Look at that. I'm good. 225, 225. So for 1250, I can actually get a 220, a house for somewhere around 225,000 versus the 213. So this is how it all works. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help. Thank you.